This is KSL Sunday Edition with Boyd Matheson.
Welcome to Sunday Edition. I am Boyd Matheson. Each Sunday we attempt to divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense. We have conversations with great thinkers, great leaders, and great people making a difference. We talk politics so we can discuss society, and we explore society so we can discuss principles and the people in America who actually live them. We bring the best and brightest to Utah while we send the Utah model to our nation's capital and beyond. Well, the Commission on Presidential Debates announced its decision Monday morning to bring a national debate to Utah for the second election cycle in a row. You'll recall that the University of Utah hosted the vice presidential debate between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris in 2020. University of Utah President Taylor Randall, Hinckley Institute of Politics Director Jason Perry, Utah Senate President Stuart Adams, Utah House Majority Leader Jefferson Moss, and Salt Lake City Mayor Aaron Mendenhall were on hand Monday for the formal announcement at Kingsbury Hall on the University of Utah campus. And we are very excited to have both President Taylor Randall and Jason Perry with us live in studio to discuss. Gentlemen, welcome to Sunday Edition.
Thanks for having us, Boyd. We're thrilled to be here this morning.
Wonderful. President, this is a big deal for the university, second cycle in a row. As we always say, the day the journey begins is not the day the journey begins. How did we get here?
You know, great team at the University of Utah campus that put together a fantastic proposal. And quite frankly, I think the performance of the state, the security, and everyone involved in the vice presidential debate had a lot to do with our success this time.
Yeah, no question. And Jason, you got to see the movie the first time around.
Did indeed. This is a huge deal for the state of Utah, and you're right. The success this time started in 2020. Remember, we're hosting a vice presidential debate during a pandemic. It was a big question about whether or not we would be able to do it. But the fact that Utah came together, the University of Utah in particular, helped put that on, was not lost on the Commission on Presidential Debates. They loved their time in Utah.
Yeah, it was interesting. A lot of the conversation on Monday as the announcement was rolled out was really how Utah does do it a little bit different. How did that play into all of this, President?
You know, we're going to leave, I think, jokes about flies until later. There'll be a lot of material, I think, coming down the pipe. But, you know, to be quite honest, I think we're great collaborators, right? I think we're able to bring different viewpoints together, and that comes through when you have heated issues and heated candidates coming together. They know that Utah's going to do a good job, treat people fairly.
Yeah, and Jason, you've been a part of the Utah model for a long time. You've seen that play out, and you've seen the different kinds of political conversations that can happen. What do you hope for coming up? And this will be in October of 2024, just before the election day.
This will be the third and final presidential debate on October 9th is when it will be in Utah at Kingsbury Hall. And like what we talked about during the last cycle, the hope is the rhetoric is toned down and we actually get to the policies and the issues of the candidates. That's what we need. This is a critical election. We'll see who all the candidates are in this particular election, but that is really the hope, is we model in the Utah way civic dialogue in a way where we understand where people truly are on the issues.
Yeah, and President, as you look at it from the university standpoint, what does this do for the University of Utah to be able to host this kind of event that won't just be a big national event? This will be the eyes of the world will be on the University of Utah.
We obviously love the attention that it places on a beautiful university and the excellence that's at the university. More than anything, though, it's wonderful to be able to have students engaged in the process, to understand politics, to understand civics, to understand what it means to be a productive member of a democracy.
Yeah, so important. And Jason, you experience that every day up on campus as you interact with the students. How will they be engaged in this process?
In a lot of ways. And it will range from volunteers who will help, but we'll also have a series of forums throughout the whole next year, getting students connected to the importance of the debates, important to policy, but it will be every part of campus that will be part of this event, and not just the University of Utah. There will be essay competitions throughout the entire state. President Randall has asked us to engage other universities around the state as well. This will be a true Utah experience with the eyes of the world on it.
Yeah, and President, this has been a hallmark of your leadership at the University of Utah, is tag teaming with other institutions around the state. Tell us why that's so important, and especially coming into a big event like this.
You know, I'm a firm believer in cooperation and collaboration, and we're thrilled to be able to open up this event to our students across the state. It's unique. We feel like we're in a great position to be able to lead out on this, but truly, right? If we're going to celebrate the diversity of opinions, we've also got to celebrate the diversity of educational institutions and what they bring to the system of higher education.
Yeah, I love that. Jason, maybe you just elaborate on that a little bit in terms of how students from different universities and institutions across the state will really give us that from the Red Rocks all the way to the north, Utah State and beyond. What does that look like?
Well, so there are a couple things. First, we'll be coordinating these forums, these conversations, making sure similar events are happening at all the institutions of higher education. Also, and it's really the big question people ask too, is how do I get a ticket?
I'm sure you're both going to be answering that question a lot for the next 10 months.
I thought you would have led with that one, Boyd. But that's also something we'll try to work on, is making sure there are representatives in attendance on that day from the other institutions. Make sure that we have a true Utah experience.
Yeah, and President, let's project forward into that. If you got to play moderator, you get to host, but you don't necessarily get to be moderator. But if you were playing the moderator, what's the therefore what? What do you hope the takeaway is after the University of Utah hosting, again, this big presidential debate in 2024?
Since we're hosting this on a university campus, I sincerely hope that those candidates involved can project a positive image of the future for our students that'll give them hope that they want to get engaged in government, that we want to get engaged in the civic process, and they want to build a brighter future for all of us.
Yeah, and I want to stay with that question for a second, President. Obviously, there's been challenges on a lot of college campuses around the country, a lot of things that have gone from just good civic dialogue to protest to anger and fear and all of those kinds of things. Give us a sense on the University of Utah campus. What are you doing to facilitate that higher level conversation?
Sure. We feel like we are a platform for speech, and that we've got to make sure that all voices are heard, from conservative to liberal to, all over the place. What gets hard when tensions rise is making sure that all voices are heard. And we certainly have tried to model free speech in the way it should be done on campus. I've been very proud of our faculty in the way that they have elicited solutions and actually been implementing them on our campus.
Yeah, and that is always the test. When the heat goes up, we always say when the sea is calm and the breeze is light and the sun's out, every boat in the harbor has a good captain. But when the storm comes and it gets a little windy, a little rocky, then you find out if you got a good captain of the ship.
So true.
But I love the way you're doing that up at the University of Utah. Well, we're going to stay with the conversation and continue with University of Utah President Taylor Randall and Hinckley Institute of Politics Director Jason Perry. We've talked about bringing presidential candidates here to the state of Utah. When we come back, we're going to discuss how the university will be sending its best and brightest to Washington, D.C. when Sunday Edition continues. Stay with us. Welcome back to Sunday Edition. We're staying with the conversation with Taylor Randall, president of the University of Utah, and Jason Perry, director of the Hinckley Institute of Politics. On December 7th, the U will be opening a new location in Washington, D.C., the Orangey Hatch Center, and we want to get into some of the different opportunities that will be created for University of Utah students. And Jason, let's start with you on this one. This has also been a big bite and a long chew, but we talk about bringing the best and brightest to Utah. This is the University of Utah having an extraordinary place to send our brightest to our nation's capital.
So it's absolutely right. On December 7th, we'll be officially opening the Orangey Hatch Center in Washington, D.C. And in every respect, this is the university's embassy in Washington, D.C. And we will treat it like that, not just because it looks like it, also 2 brownstones, 5 stories tall, 51 beds for interns in the Capitol, a carriage house for events, classrooms. This will be Utah's place in Washington, D.C. The impact of this is substantial. And really, if you want to be having an impact in a place like Washington, D.C., you have to have a place there. And that's what this is.
Yeah. One of the unique things that you've really been doing at the University of Utah, President, is convening, bringing people together. And now you've got this place in Washington, D.C. That is going to be a pretty spectacular place to convene.
Can you think of a better place than Washington, D.C. to hold relevant events and put students at the center of those? What gets so exciting to me is when I see a student that has spent time in Washington, D.C. They've interacted on Capitol Hill. They may have done an internship at an agency. They come back a completely changed individual. They have a view of the world that they didn't have, and they're excited about what their education is bringing them.
Yeah, and Jason, you've seen this for a number of years and sending those interns there. And I would note that the U sends interns not just to our nation's capital, but all over the world. Give us some vision in terms of the extent of what happens out of the Hinckley Institute.
Well, this institute has been around for 56 years. We're the longest running internship program in the country, which not many people know, but hundreds and hundreds of students come out from the University of Utah every single year. Every semester, students locally, 30, now soon to be 50 in Washington, D.C., and then most places in the world. And it's not just political science, although politics is part of everything, as we know, but this is every single major, every college on campus participates in these internships. And it is a life-changing signature experience for these students. They do, as President Randall said, it changes their worldview in a significant way, and it's hopefully what keeps them connected for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and having that opportunity to be part of civics and the civic dialogue, I think, is such an important part of that. Again, this was a big investment. This was a big chunk of time to take this historic building and turn it into a place like this. Give us a perspective from the university as to why this is going big in a big way. Why go big like this?
You know, I hope there are a few themes to the time that I am president. And one of those big themes is we're going to be looking outward. Outward at our local community, looking outward at the nation, looking outward at the world. And the only way we're going to be able to do that, focus our research out, focus our students out, focus our education out, is being in locations, right? I like to say we're expanding the classroom. We're changing it, right? We want the lecture to be part of life's experience. We want our faculty to be in those communities, taking students to museums, walking them into debates, and really living what life has to offer educationally.
Yeah, no question about that. I think that's such a powerful thing. As you look at campus more broadly, President, what are some of the other challenges you're seeing? We talk a lot about young people and mental health and some of those challenges. What are some of the things that are on your mind or keeping you up at night as it relates to the university? And again, this very outward focus, I love both outward in terms of community and beyond, is really extraordinary.
You know, I appreciate the question. Our goal as a university is really to be a top 10 public university with unsurpassed societal impact. And what that means is that we strive for excellence, but we also do it by having a positive influence on the community around us. I think what that does for both our faculty, our staff, and our students, it projects, right, a mission of hope, a mission that we can actually make a difference in this world. I always say, I want our students running at the big problems of society. And so we've got to create confidence with them and hope that they actually have the skill set to be able to change the world.
Yeah, I love that. Jason, you have a unique perch to watch all of this interconnection of classroom, of students, of some of the big challenges that President's talking about. What is it that you hope for as you watch that? What are you seeing on campus?
Well, we talk a lot about how there's sort of a Utah way to policy and to politics and how to approach these societal problems. And that's what I hope the students get. You know, they'll be in this house for sure, but as we reach out, you know, beyond the state of Utah, how do we start our students on that path where not only do we protect the Utah way, but the outsized influence that we have had for some time, that continues. We approach problems in a unique way in the state of Utah. And what's interesting is it's being recognized in many, many places. That's why all these folks are coming here. That's why these big events come here. Utah has a way about it that people like to try to emulate.
Yeah, and just as we close out, President, real quick, last minute, as you talk to some of your colleagues at other colleges and universities around the country, what are they saying about the University of Utah and what's happening there?
Well, they truly think it's a unique place because mainly, as Jason mentioned, we are actually in a state where we can have dialogue. Where when a problem is presented to us that oftentimes creates a flare-up in another state, we actually sit down, we actually talk, we often will find compromise, and even when we don't, we're understanding of each other and we treat each other with dignity and respect.
Yeah, such a powerful thing. Well, a lot of big things happening at the University of Utah. Again, if you've missed out this week, it's an amazing thing that a presidential debate will be here in October of 2024, hosted by the University of Utah. I love the connection to the other institutions around the state. The world will be watching. And then, of course, the opening up of the Orangey Hatch Center in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., coming up on December 7th, also a big day. President Randall, thank you so much for being with us. Jason Perry from the Hinckley Institute, appreciate the work you're doing at the university and beyond, pushing the Utah model out to the nation's capital and all around the planet. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Boyd.
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back with a few things to wrap up and some things to think differently about as you roll through this Thanksgiving weekend. Stay with us. More Sunday Edition here on KSL 5 TV coming up next. Welcome back to Sunday Edition. On this Thanksgiving Day weekend, there are problems aplenty in our nation and neighborhoods and communities, and there's also very much that we all should be thankful for. Sadly, we live in a world that serves up a steady stream of instant gratification, which makes it easy to become entrenched and eventually enslaved by ingratitude-inducing arrogance and an entitlement mentality. William George Jordan wrote back in 1902 that ingratitude is the most popular sin of humanity. It is forgetfulness of the heart. The individual who possesses it, ingratitude, finds it the shortest cut to all the other vices. Allowing ingratitude to justify and become the shortcut to our own anger, greed, bitterness, or jealousy is short-sighted, small-minded, and cold-hearted. The courage to face our own ingratitude may be one of the most daunting tests of personal character for all of us. Albert Einstein said, "There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle." You see, ingratitude cannot exist in the same place where awe, wonder, humility, and thankfulness are actually found. Feelings of love and gratitude seem to naturally swell at this time of year. Properly lived, gratitude isn't a set of behaviors as much as it is a way of living, a way of being. Gratitude drives out greed and selfishness and entitlement, bringing in its wake a desire to lift and serve others. True gratitude is expressed by action. William George Jordan concluded his thought on ingratitude with this challenge. He said, "Let us conceive of gratitude in its largest, most beautiful sense, that if we receive any kindness, we are debtors, not merely to one person, but to the whole world. Let us realize that it is in kindness to all that we can begin to repay the debt to the one." Now, one example of that kind of kindness is found in the Light the World giving machines operated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The red vending machines will be located in 61 cities and 7 countries in 2023, including the United States and Canada, Mexico, Guatemala, Australia, New Zealand, and the Philippines. At a giving machine, people can buy something for someone else in need, like a traditional vending machine, but different. You can select and donate items ranging from blankets and hygiene kits, coats, or medical supplies to goats, chickens, or even eyeglasses. Since 2017, 1.5 million visitors have donated more than $22 million to local and global nonprofit organizations, with the Church of Jesus Christ covering all operational expenses. Kindness is contagious. 3 of my grandchildren, Caledon, Matheson, and Lorna, gave away free hot chocolate in front of their home while providing the receivers of the treat a chance to light the world by contributing money they will take and use to donate at the giving machines. Now, there are many ways to give kindness, and there are many more ways to share light. For years now, each November as it goes out, the holiday season comes in with a bang of cleverly called days. Of course, we have Thanksgiving Thursday. That's followed by the shopping bonanza of Black Friday. Small Business Saturday and Cyber Monday continue the indulgent shopping spree until finally a little balance is brought about with Giving Tuesday. On Giving Tuesday, attention turns to philanthropic organizations and charity. So this leaves just Wednesday as the only day without a worthy moniker. I believe Giving Tuesday should rightly be followed by Forgiving Wednesday. It's been said that love and gratitude are forgiving, 2 words, and forgiving, 1 word. I think having these two forms of love and gratitude back to back as formal days during the holidays would do wonders for people everywhere. Contempt and bitterness often begin when others offend us or hurt us. It is far better, frankly, to forgive and move forward. Society seems to be making forgiveness more difficult by depicting it as an act of weakness rather than a manifestation of inner strength. In his novel, The Light Between Oceans, M.L. Stedman captures a conversation between a man who had been marginalized and mistreated by the people of the town and his wife, who just couldn't understand his warm-hearted forgiveness and rejection of contempt towards the town people. When his wife asked, how could he forgive those who had wronged him, the husband replies, I choose to. I can leave myself to rot in the past, spend my time hating people for what happened, or I can forgive. But it's not that easy, she answered. He smiled and said, oh, but it is so much less exhausting. You only have to forgive once. To resent, you have to do it all day, every day. You have to keep remembering all the bad things. You see, we always have a choice to forgive. Now, earlier this week, President Joe Biden carried out a long-standing presidential tradition and pardoned 2 turkeys just prior to Thanksgiving. This year, the 2 turkeys from Minnesota, named Liberty and Bell, received the special treatment in the pun-producing media event as the president granted them a pardon and a new lease on life. Now, a pardon is the ultimate power that a president can yield, and presidents use this power on more than just a couple of lucky turkeys before Thanksgiving. A presidential pardon provides the ultimate in a clean slate. And presidents aren't the only people who can wield such power. We all have this power to pardon and forgive. So on this Thanksgiving weekend, identify someone for whom you are holding a grudge, some anger, some animosity, or some contempt for, and mentally and emotionally pardon them, forgive them completely. Remember, you only have to forgive once. To hold a grudge, you have to recreate and feed the negative emotion every day. And I would also add that you also probably have someone in your life who you should hope would give you a pardon. So if appropriate, ask that person for a pardon or forgiveness. And if not, at least pray for it. So yes, I believe Thanksgiving Thursday, Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, and Giving Tuesday should indeed be followed by Forgiving Wednesday. Of course, the real test for humankind is to prove through our lives and actions that the love and gratitude we profess to hold in our hearts is indeed forgiving, 2 words, and forgiving, 1 word. Well, that wraps up Sunday edition for this Thanksgiving weekend. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us. And as always, as you go out into the world today, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference. Music and the spoken word is next.